You think there's only 7 books to read in the Murderbot Diaries? Wrong! Here's why the 3 short stories of this series are essential reading. Welcome to Fantasy for the Ages, the show where a father and son talk about fantasy, science fiction, horror, and other nerdy things we enjoy. Today, just Jim, the father of this show, coming at you to talk about the Murderbot Diaries some more. In particular, 3 short stories for you today. I'm on location away from my home, and in fact, I flew to get where I'm at here today. I'm in a hotel room. Looks like my signal is pretty good, but what's not good is my ear. It hasn't popped yet. Don't you hate when that happens? You've been on a flight and one of your ears didn't pop? Not good. So hopefully I sound fine for you. And you're entertained. If you are entertained, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to our channel if you haven't done so yet. So, these short stories, they expand our knowledge and understanding of the universe of the Murderbot Diaries by Martha Wells. I'm talking about Compulsory, which was published in 2018, Obsolescence, 2019, and Home, Habitat, Range, Niche, Territory, published in 2021. Now, Obsolescence, for the record, though it was written in 2019, it wasn't released on its own. It was released as part of a story collection called Take Us to a Better Place, which came out in 2020. The genre, of course, science fiction with a cyberpunk tilt. I was happily working my way through book 5 of this series, Network Effect, when a friend shared on our Discord server that there were short stories in Murderbot. I'm like, wait, what? I had no idea there were short stories in addition to the 7 core titles that I was reading through. So, stop the presses. I immediately did some research, found out, yeah, here's these 3 short stories. Well, when should I read them? I stopped what I was doing with Network Effect, looked at the publication dates, and realized these had all come out before Network Effect, but after the last of the 4 opening novellas. So really, I was just a little too far. I just put book 5 on pause, dove into all 3 of these, reading them in the publication order. So Compulsory, Obsolescence, and then that last one, Home, Habitat, Range, Niche, Territory. Now, how are they actually set within the series? Well, I'll get to that here, but I will tell you that reading them where I did made a lot of sense, definitely helped enrich my understanding of the series, and as I'm doing this review, I have read the whole series now, so I can say that with confidence. This is the perfect place to read them. Of course, I'm a completionist. I hate missing some of the content of a series I'm enjoying, so I'm so glad I learned that these existed, and before it was too late and I'd already gotten to the end. Because this content is so good. Not just these short stories, the whole series, but these fill a nice niche. So I want to encourage all of you, don't be like my son Zach. He thinks short stories like this just aren't important enough to read. He literally has told me if the content was essential, the author or authors, depending on the series we're talking about, they would have put the material in the actual stories, not just add them in as these little shorts. Short stories like this fill out a world, add key understandings, and in this point, fill in circumstances and events that are specifically referenced in later books. If you fail to read these, you truly are missing out. All right, let me talk very briefly about each one of them. Compulsory, the first short story. This is a story that's a prequel to the main series, with the events occurring sometime prior to book 1, All Systems Red. The focus character is Murderbot, serving on a contract and a mission with some other random group of humans. And this takes place sometime after it's already hacked its governor module. The crux of this story is seeing Murderbot working for this group of humans who see it as just a contracted sec unit and generally dislike it because it's inhuman and potentially dangerous. It's a construct owned by a corporation that they have to have with them. We get to see how Murderbot is going about its business, playing its role, and then looking in general disdain on the puny humans that it has to help out, serve in some manner. But at the same time, we get an early look at what free will means for our protagonist when it has the option, because of something that happens, it has the option to go against normal programming to help a human in need. Or it can just keep playing its role like a sec unit would do and do nothing to help. Seeing it wrangle with this and what actually occurs is fascinating. What this particularly brings to the series is giving us early Murderbot. We get this as a comparison point that we can look at the rest of what we see in Murderbot and the growth we're seeing, and we can see how far it's already come in All Systems Red, what it's already figured out, because this is so early on in this snapshot. The growth of Murderbot through the books is one of the best aspects of this series. So this takes us to an earlier, younger time for this construct. I found it gave a terrific perspective. And it's just fun to see Murderbot figuring out how to act as it wants while hiding in plain sight. The second short story, Obsolescence, takes place considerably further back in time when people still recall how humans were just getting off of Earth and starting to colonize and terraform other planets and moons, literally like their grandparents were the ones who first left Earth. That's where we are now. No characters in the core stories even exist yet at this point. The entire story takes place on a particular small space station, which happens to be a place for children to be cared for by a few adults. Core to the story is the existence of humans who have been transformed into something more than human. Think Robocop. These creatures, cyborgs, constructs served a vital role in the early days of space expansion when humans by themselves wouldn't have been capable of doing all that needed to get done. But we're past that point, and the galaxy has moved on. Yet, what happens to humans who, for whatever reason, allowed themselves to be turned into human slash machine blends when they're no longer needed now? And in fact, people are perhaps a little awkward that they ever did that to people. What this adds to the series is, well, I mean, it dives into the ethics of cyborgs and AI already and constructs of this sort. But it also introduces the element of corporate greed, because this is part of how things go bad. And we know corporate greed is fundamental to the Murderbot Diaries. The story also basically helps us see how things went wrong with human cyborgs, which you can put the dots together from this story and looking at what else we see in the Murderbot Diaries to understand how an eventual decision gets made that, since this is so bad, turning humans into these cyborg machine creatures, let's go the other direction. Let's start with AI robots and take cloned human parts and merge them. Because that's got to be better then, right? I mean, we could treat them like just things, right? Right? The last short story, Home, Habitat, Range, Niche Territory, takes place in the midst of the Murderbot Diaries sequence, shortly after the completion of the fourth novella, so the end of the first completed story arc. This story involves Murderbot and many others we've come to know, and its events are heavily referenced in future titles of the series. In this story, Murderbot now lives on the space station of the Preservation Alliance, serving primarily as a bodyguard for Dr. Mensa. This is the first story involving Murderbot that does not get told from Murderbot's point of view. Rather, we get all of this from Dr. Mensa's perspective. Murderbot is actually only a secondary character in the story, practically tertiary. This is really about Dr. Ida Mensa as she continues to process the experiences of the previous book when Murderbot saves her, but she and the other humans save Murderbot. And then how it has impacted her developing relationship with Murderbot, as well as how she goes about life in general. This story adds a distinctly human element to the Murderbot Diaries, helping us see the perspective of the unique society known as the Preservation Alliance, which has already had a huge impact, shifting Murderbot's development and growth. I enjoyed getting that viewpoint rather than the one we always get, skewed by Murderbot's way of looking at things. Delightful as that always is, this added a very positive element. As a whole, these stories each rate as 5-star reads. They may be short, but they add great richness to the overall Murderbot story, while each one has interesting elements and are quick reads that you're just going to enjoy. So there you go. Have you read these short stories yet? Tell me what you thought of them. Put it down in the comments. If you have anything else you want to say about what I've said here today or the Murderbot Diaries in general, put those in the comment box too. I read everything and I do respond. Also, while you're down there, look in the show notes for all the ways you can interact with my son, Zach, and I. Thanks for watching. We'll talk to you next time.